All right, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back. And we are joined right now by James Taranto, columnist and editorial board member for the Wall Street Journal. Hello, James. I'm great, and thank you for coming aboard. Okay, you wrote a piece on the 21st of October, a few days ago, and lo and behold, yesterday it became even more relevant because the headline of your piece was Obamacare catches fire, and now, of course, we know that it's really, a 3-alarm, 4-alarm blaze with the premium increases. So how much can Donald Trump, I won't say exploit because it's a legitimate issue, but how much can he use what's going on with Obamacare in the next 13 days to help get elected?
Well, don't ask me, ask Donald Trump. I think a candidate who has a focus and an understanding on issues could use it very effectively. Trump, unfortunately, does not always meet that description.
Well, no, that's true. He misses opportunities left and right. He did talk about it a little bit yesterday, and he has talked about Obamacare. But talk about the gist, the overall point of your piece before we were informed of these outrageous premium increases once again starting next year. You talked about the Affordable Care Act, and you talked a lot about the very interesting aspects of it.
Well, the president gave a speech last week in Florida, which was a sort of apologia for Obamacare. And it was typical Obama. He said he grudgingly admitted that there are some problems with the law, but he said we can fix those problems if we just put aside ideology and partisanship, by which, of course, he means if his opponents put aside ideology and partisanship and do whatever he wants to do. And the only solutions that he was willing to consider were more subsidies, more Medicaid, and an introduction of what's called the public option, which is essentially the government getting into the insurance business and competing with private insurance companies.
Right, and the important part there, by the way, is the government then deciding who gets what operations and AKA death panels, which is something that's coming up in my Gimme 5. I pulled out an interview with Mark Halpern when he admitted 3 years ago on this show that, yes, indeed, there are death panels.
Yeah, well, I mean, the government has been dictating the terms of medical insurance and the terms of medical care under Obamacare ever since it was enacted in 2010. So that's nothing new. This would just mean that the government would be in the business of selling insurance and presumably losing a lot of money. Of course, what they say, what the Obamacare defenders say when you point out these premium increases is, well, people aren't really paying these premiums because there are all of these subsidies. Two problems with that. One is the subsidies come out of the taxpayers' pockets. The second is the subsidies are based on income, which means if you make too much money, you're not eligible for the subsidies or you're eligible for reduced subsidies. So it's an incentive, if you want to take advantage of the subsidies, to reduce your income. It's a disincentive to work.
Yeah.
So it creates problems beyond even just the healthcare system.
Absolutely. All right. Another piece that you wrote yesterday or 2 days ago, Facebook and free speech. You wrote it at the Wall Street Journal, and it's very best of the web, and it's very interesting. You start out by talking about the effort to get Facebook to take some quote-unquote offensive postings by Donald Trump, the Muslim ban, etc., off of Facebook, and how the hierarchy at Facebook decided to leave them. But we all may not be that lucky.
Right. There have been a couple of internal controversies at Facebook in which Mark Zuckerberg, somewhat to his credit, the CEO of Facebook, has come out on what is, for the purpose of these disputes, the pro-free speech side. One of them, which the Wall Street Journal reported on last week, was when Donald Trump posted last December a link to his campaign announcement about his proposed temporary ban on Muslim immigration. There were Facebook employees, people who are in charge of enforcing the community standards as to what can be posted, who said this is hate speech and it shouldn't be permitted. Zuckerberg, this went all the way up to Zuckerberg. He thought it over and he said, well, it would be ridiculous to censor the speech of a major presidential candidate, so we're not going to take down any of Trump's posts, he said. But he also said that, indeed, this post did constitute hate speech, which means presumably that if you or I posted the same thing, Facebook might take it down. Now, we should also say Facebook has recently announced that it's going to relax some of its standards for the sake of newsworthiness. This was in response to a controversy in which Facebook did delete a post that included the iconic Vietnam War photo of the little girl running away from, I guess it was a napalm attack.
Right.
And Facebook took it down because their community standards don't allow pictures of naked children. Now they're saying that they're going to apply a more case-by-case standard and say that, well, perhaps this is newsworthy, so it should stay.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy times ahead, especially with the Hillary Clinton Supreme Court, because any First Amendment issues involving so-called hate speech will indeed be upheld by a Hillary Clinton Supreme Court. We will have hate speech laws, I predict, much like they have in Great Britain and in many European countries and in Canada. And everybody's concentrating on the Second Amendment, which is legitimate, but we got to watch that First Amendment as well. James Taranto, a columnist extraordinaire at the Wall Street Journal and editorial board member as well. As always, sir, I thank you.
Thanks.
And we are joined right now by David Horowitz, founder of the David Horowitz Freedom Center, editor of Front Page Magazine, and author of the Black Book of the American Left, now Volume 7, The Left in Power, Clinton to Obama. And David, welcome back, sir. I want to ask you, because you're an admitted child of the 60s on the wrong side, the left side, back then. What we found out through the Project Veritas videos, that the top Democratic operatives sent people to the Trump rallies to foment violence, which I'm sure is no surprise to you. And now we have the Vice President of the United States saying twice now that he'd like to have a fist fight with Donald Trump. They make no secret about it, do they?
No, I've been saying when people ask me that I think that the most important thing said during this campaign was in the second debate when Trump said, Hillary has tremendous hatred in her heart. And he was responding, of course, to her basket of the deplorables statement about Republicans and conservatives. But she listed who the deplorables are: racists, sexists, homophobes, Islamophobes, xenophobes. Well, there isn't a conservative listening to this show who has ever been in an argument with a so-called liberal who hasn't been called a racist, a sexist, a homophobe.
Right.
They have hate in their hearts. The Democratic Party is a party of hate because it's in war, and its war is to bring about this paradise on earth where there's social justice, where there's no racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, poverty, et cetera, et cetera. So they think they're saving the world, and they actually say that when they're doing their environmental wacko stuff. They're saving the planet. Well, that will make them hate anybody in their path, and that's us. And so that doesn't surprise me at all. And then, labor unions are notorious for their, thuggery. They beat up, strike breakers. Well, that's what they call them. People who want to work and don't think, it's reasonable to go on strike. They get beat up. They're intimidated. And so it's the same people.
It is, and of course they're being given a pass by the media. The media, if they talked about that Project Veritas tape at all, always said it's an edited tape to imply that it's not credible, even though these guys had to resign the next day. And I just heard a little while ago Doris Kearns Goodwin, the presidential historian, quote unquote, hear Joe Biden. They played Joe Biden talking about wanting to fight Trump. And she said, the same thing Michael Schmaconnor said after he heard the one last Friday. They both said, that's what people love about Joe Biden. He talks like a regular person. But when Donald Trump talks like a regular person, he's every name in the book.
But what a sleight of hand. What regular people threaten violence to people they disagree with? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's completely unreasonable. And of course, the Democrats, progressives' first response is to character assassinate you, to destroy the messenger. So they can't mention anything that O'Keefe does. It's on video without attacking him personally or any other. Look what they've done to Trump. It's just disgraceful. They have the politics of the gutter, the Democrats. And it's just the reason that they do it and they get away, the reason they get away with it is because Republicans are have been, I should say, too cowardly to confront them. That's why Donald Trump is a breath of fresh air. The Republican Party will never be the same after this election.
No, you're absolutely right. All right, folks, the book, again, The Black Book of the American Left, now Volume 7, The Left in Power, Clinton to Obama. David, I thank you, sir.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, some of the latest polls, as we've talked about, appear to be swinging in Donald Trump's favor, and we're going to be talking about that and a whole lot more with the panel. Brent Badowski and Jim Hoff. Do not go anywhere.